When considering your product or service for foreign markets, you have to go through a very self-reflective process, which I find wonderful. You'll find, for example, that there could be new ways you can improve your product or service even in your home market by going through the ideas and concepts of understanding how it would be viable in a different foreign market. We've seen that, for example, in coffee culture at Starbucks, in the amount of different ways times they failed in different markets, but have found success in countries like Germany and France. So you have to think that this process is a great way for you, whether you go abroad or not. So I highly recommend it. Let's take a look at China and Disney. And Disney struggled, where in Tokyo Disneyland and Euro Disneyland, they found quite great successes. What kind of challenges would you face in a foreign market like China? And you have to think of the totality of the time, from the moment they step foot on your premise to the moment they leave. Even before that, how they buy and purchase tickets and the branding that you present to them way before they get into that door matters. But even on the premise of Disneyland, you have to worry about how they use restrooms, the locations of restrooms. Things as tiny as that matter to the overall experience, and Disney has had a lot of challenges to overcome in China. So definitely enjoy that example in the book. I always see every problem is an opportunity, and big problems are big opportunities. So emerging opportunities and challenges for consumers in new markets should be seen as a positive thing and a challenge that you want to overcome. So looking at the totality of your product or your service is necessary, and how much you have to adapt. So as some cultures and some products are homogenizing, in a lot of cases that's not. And in those situations, you need to be able to adapt your product and service. Things we want to look at is product life cycles. As people are buying things more easily and readily, the importance of quality is questioned. You know, if you're making a car to last 3 years versus 5 or 10 years, competitive prices where you have to compete against more competitors than before, and the innovation of products. People are concerned about the newness and novelty of your product, particularly in tech and software departments. Of course, when you're looking at a product like pasta, what are we looking at when we're looking in terms of novelty and generating newness to it? But product life cycles are changing in a lot of other ways. Power is shifting from the seller to the buyer. We have to be careful with the number of ideas and things. Customers want choices, but as an international marketer, you're responsible in understanding the psychology of such choices. Like, if consumers with more choices make more stressful decisions, so how do we give them more choice, or the idea that there's more choice, without actually inhibiting or paralyzing their capability of making a choice? So we're here to not only provide choice, but to provide a solution and a decision in the buyer process. So just keep that in mind. Consumers are changing in what they want and how they want it. It's up to us to sell it in a more clever ways, in my opinion. In the product life cycle, it takes a long time to see that a product will go from development to actual profits. And you see here, as I point, product development, you are investing into the product before it even sells. I do not agree with, you might have pre-sales in business-to-business markets, but most sales start at the introduction of the market, or some kind of pre-sale like we see with games or iPhones, buy before it introduces. But most cases, you're kind of in this like phase to this phase, and all that's negative profits because you have to make up for it. Here is where you start making the creme de la creme of your money, growth and maturity. We look at Boston Consulting Group, I hopefully later in the slides, regarding where you are as a company and as a product. And here you see maturity and decline. Eventually, you make not as much money as you did before. So what you want in this part, in the product, is what we call product life extensions. Here you'll see a ... usually. And that's where you're saying, oh, what's my next product line extension? Or is there another market we can enter or extend from so we can keep continuing in the growth stage? Or are we closing up shop on this? So, for example, do we continue to provide 3G when a lot of networks require it on phone, not just phones, but star services or security services for networks into automobiles still run on 3G. Right now, 3G is in its full decline. So something as simple as that. Quality is a very challenging concept to understand, as quality perception is different from market to market. People may want goods that last longer and don't like to buy things more than once. Automobiles in the United States are a 3-year general business model. And if you look at Germans, they like their cars for 5 to 10 years. So very different life cycles of the car. And you don't want to provide cars that are going to break down or have a lot more defects when you're trying to sell them in a market like Germany, for example. So quality is perception, and perception matters, particularly when you're branding your product. There could be country of origin quality perception, how we feel about in America about Chinese goods. How do other countries feel about American goods? Russians love to buy Finnish products from Finland. They love Nokia and don't want to buy from their own domestic market. So consider the perception of quality. Performance quality. How do people feel the product can handle or be under different uses? So firm's perception itself, not just the market, but the firm and how people perceive the firm. When I buy Kraft macaroni and cheese versus buying off private label brand from Walmart or Kroger, you see different perceptions of firm quality. We could also check consumer satisfaction indexes. There's fair trade designations. I don't know the Malcolm Baldrige Quality Award, but all those are private organizations. If you want to add a Malcolm Baldrige, you're considering a private label that says, or certification, it's something. Fair trade is a private organization that makes a lot of money by giving you the perception that the product was fair trade when it probably wasn't. So consider what qualification certifications you want to add to your product. Product adaptation. I always love this picture because I think of the movie The Gods Must Be Crazy from the 1980s, when this gentleman is flying a plane and he throws his empty Coke bottle and it's picked up by a tiny village in I think South Africa or Zimbabwe. It's definitely the southern portion of Africa. And this thing that, is no use anymore to us is now becoming so many different uses in a village, and people start fighting over it and over a Coca-Cola bottle. And that's why they say the gods must be crazy. Why would they send us something that we didn't need before, that we can't live without now, and that we're fighting over it? So a wonderful movie I highly recommend watching. I spend a lot of time talking about that. But yeah, you'll see bottles being used in slum-like conditions in some countries, where they use water to help illuminate lights during the day in very dark, cramped conditions. So versatility of your uses can surprise you. So look at your product and how it can be used. Further consisting of quality and performance, I want to, whether it's addressed or not, I want to address now product viability in the market. Also means, do they actually need this product or actually want this product, and how are you going to create and educate a market to want something? For example, even though Guatemala sells a lot of coffee, does not necessarily mean everybody there is drinking coffee. So is it a product there that you could sell, like Nespresso machines? Or is that how they want, can they have connectors to it? Or the energy to use it? Where, for example, in Ethiopia, they cook their coffee in fire pits and stuff. So consider, your market and your product. It may not ever, even if they sell something or seem like they might be adaptive to it, may not possibly adapt to it. Maintaining quality is important because when it's damaged or a product has issues or defects, you're liable to the product liability laws of those local countries. Even in the European Union, it's localized laws under directives of the European Union, meaning each member state will have their own rules. Also, you have to look at how you're going to process damaged products. For example, Lenovo processes their damaged laptops or computers through UPS. Even on site at UPS locations, they have teams that can actually handle those damaged goods. So is it going to be centralized in the country that you're in? Is it going to be sent out of the country? Who's going to be handling the product damage? Or are you just going to pass that a check over or something and or replace it? Is it cheaper to just replace the product itself? Because you can't just remunerate or fix something that easily. So that's what I look at when I want to maintain quality, is how am I going to handle the damage of my goods in different countries? Because things break. I don't want to go into this, but it is a fascinating story of chocolate brands, Nestle and Mars and Moscow, and chocolate in every brand that's kind of started or market that started into making chocolates struggle to create quality perceptions. Even the famous Hawaii chocolates that are sold all over the world, like Mauna Loa and Hawaiian Host, struggled with quality of their products back in the 70s. So definitely consider the chocolate wars more fascinating in quality perception. So I only have so many minutes per video. Physical or mandatory requirements of your product adaptation. We have product homologation, sorry, I guess I'm pronouncing it wrong. Changes mandated by the local product standards. That's electrical requirements, UV or UL certifications we have in the United States will differ over there. Different plugs, different labels. Often, you have to consider whether the motors that you're using, if it's electrical appliances, can handle the changes in electrical requirements of voltages. Other factors is that some less developed markets may require a greater degree of adaptation. Say, for example, that you need extra components for the product to work over there. For example, TVs or microwaves require a very different adaptation in some cases. For example, even my building, I use a microwave and I use my AC unit and the power goes out because this building is so old and it cannot handle the power together. So 1960s building, 2021 products, you can imagine. You also have to worry about different climate differences. I was working with wooden eyewear factory in Austria. We were very concerned about setting this eyewear to tropical climates because the hinges were wooden, and wood expands in water and humidity. So making sure we make a product that you don't break or easily break because the expanded wood. So what wood we use would change, for example. Green marketing and product development. Europe, for example, is really big on eco-labeling. They're very much promoting of eco-friendly products from factory uses like lubricants and oil in factories to final consumer goods, the 360-degree approach to environmental friendly products. So consider that as well. You have an advantage, for example, if you have a product like that the European Union is looking for. Packaging requirements. Packaging is expensive. I love the packaging of the Apple products, like this pencil, is more wasteful. But the iPhone, for example, has very, very tight, compact packaging. They use premium materials so it doesn't break easily. And they love that because they could ship more per container, and they're actually shipping by air their iPhones. So that's how they bypass the supply chain bottleneck. So, and finally, we're going to talk about products and culture. You want to be considerate of different product perceptions. Oreos is wonderful. Kit Kat is also another wonderful brand. Kit Kat has more variations than you'll ever find. You'll find more variations in Japan than anywhere else. I love it. Kit Kat Japanese options are my favorite candy to always look for and see different flavors. Oreo cookies in China are more wafer-like and less cookie-like, actually quite tasty. So definitely look at the different adaptations that satisfy consumers. That's where your primary research matters. You really want to see what people are enjoying, or how they're enjoying or not enjoying your product or service.